The Bonneville County Heritage Association annual observance of Idaho Day marks the creation of Idaho Territory by President Abraham Lincoln on March 4, 1863. This year also marks another truly grand historic event, the 100th anniversary of the passage of the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution, giving women the right to vote. We now celebrate that historic event and honor the women of Idaho through the 2020 Idaho Day theme, Inspiring Idaho Women, and also through this film, Idaho Women in White, a wistful blending of art and history using beautiful vintage photographs of women dressed in white. During the late 19th and early 20th centuries, it was high fashion for women to wear white dresses at formal gatherings, such as graduation ceremonies, social events, or even parades. White projected a noble image representing purity and virtue. These elegant vintage photographs offer us a vivid contrast to the casual informality of our own day and seem to descend upon us as from a dream, all bathed in liquid light, as President Abraham Lincoln once wrote. Parochial school graduates somewhere in Idaho, early 1900s. Mrs. Grover's Bible class, Boise, Idaho. A group of unidentified Idaho women, late 1890s. Margaret McConnell, student at the University of Idaho, Moscow. Idaho Girls in a Play, early 1900s. Marie Irwin, Idaho artist. Boise Nursing School graduates surrounded by floral bouquets. Dr. Millie Howard from Pocatello. The mother of Minnie Hitt, Idaho Falls. Amy Burnham, Village of Lincoln, 1902. Little Girls in White. The girl standing by the falls in this photo, and the one in the big hat on the left, is probably the daughter of W.W. Kiefer, who built the first hydroelectric dam in Idaho Falls, which put the falls in Idaho Falls. It is certainly no surprise to learn that women in the suffrage movement often wore white from head to toe to emphasize the virtue of their cause. White was a visual reminder of their femininity and unwillingness to appear intimidating or masculine in their crusade to win the vote. It was a proud moment for Idaho to become the fourth state in the Union to grant women's suffrage in 1896, following only Wyoming, Utah, and Colorado. Sadly, the vote for Idaho's Native American women and men did not come until 1950, 26 years after American Indians received U.S. citizenship in 1924. Let us now honor Idaho women through more vintage photographs. These Boise women, dressed in white, campaigned for justice during the early 1900s. Their float is drawn by 4 white horses. Artists from across America entered a contest to design a state seal for Idaho after it achieved statehood in 1890. Idaho artist Emma Edwards Green won the contest and became the only American woman ever to design a state seal. Laura and Lena Shoup from Salmon, Idaho, were the daughters of Idaho's first governor, George L. Shoup, elected in 1890. May L. Scott was the first woman to hold statewide office in Idaho, serving as superintendent of public instruction from 1903 to 1907. Greta Fong is pictured here in an early 20th century Idaho wedding photograph. Sarah Crow, pictured here in 1905, is thought to have owned the first piano and taught the first music lessons during the 1880s in the village of Eagle Rock, which became Idaho Falls in 1891. The Crow Creek Addition, also known as the Numbered Streets in Idaho Falls, were named after Sarah and her husband. Mary McConnell of Moscow, Idaho, was the daughter of Idaho Governor William J. McConnell and future wife of Idaho Senator William E. Borah. Born in 1886, Ethel A. Boyce got her teaching certificate at age 18. She once taught grades 1 through 8 in a tiny one-room schoolhouse at Carmen Creek near Salmon, Idaho. Visits to her hometown in Idaho Falls were made by stagecoach. Ethel taught and served as a principal in Idaho Falls for 39 years, mostly at Emerson Grade School, driving each day to school in her 1927 Chevrolet sedan. She retired in 1951, and a local elementary school was named after her in 1965. In 1915, ladies of the Grand Army of the Republic dedicated a statue of Abraham Lincoln, which now stands in front of the Idaho State Capitol building. Celia Guthrie, a Nez Perce woman from Lapwai, Idaho, wears beautiful white deerskin regalia sometime in the 1920s or 1930s. Henrietta Amelia Simons dedicated the World War I battleship Idaho in 1917. Articles of silverware from the ship are in possession of the Idaho State Historical Society. United States Army nurse Ginevra Robinson from Nampa, Idaho, lost her life while serving in Europe during World War I. She was the first Idaho woman buried in Arlington National Cemetery. Minnie Gibson Hitt became the first woman bank manager in Idaho Falls. In 1890, she began work in her teens at the Anderson Brothers General Store and Bank and ended her career in 1946 as manager of the First Security Bank of Idaho. Minnie was a good judge of human character and often made loans without collateral of any kind, sometimes lending her own money. She said she could tell from a man's hands if he worked hard. Pictured is the Hitt home on Ridge Avenue, which currently serves as Promise Ridge, providing temporary emergency housing for single mothers and their children. Betty Bateman Sheridan from Bonneville County served in the U.S. Navy during World War II. Wearing a beautiful white beaded buckskin dress made by her grandmother, Randy L. Teton, a member of the Shoshone-Bannock tribe at Fort Hall, was selected to model for the dollar issued by the U.S. Mint in 2000, featuring Sacagawea, the heroic young Shoshone woman who assisted Lewis and Clark during their epic journey. Randy went on tours across America promoting the coin, honoring Sacagawea, the Shoshone-Bannock tribe, and all indigenous people. The last set of photographs was taken in American history classes at Bonneville High School in Idaho Falls between 1994 and 2003. Junior girls modeled vintage wedding gowns obtained from their families going back at least 50 years, the oldest dating from 1888. This project brought life to history by connecting the students to their family heritage. Girls sometimes modeled dresses worn by fourth-generation ancestors. Photographs were taken at historic locations throughout town, including the Wright Mansion on Ridge Avenue.
The last sentence in German writer Johann Wolfgang von Goethe's famous two-volume drama Faust, completed in 1831, reads,
Das ewige Weibliche zieht uns hinan.
Translated into English, it reads, The eternal feminine spirit draws us upward. And so it was, and so it is, and so it always will be. The eternal feminine spirit draws us upward.